Hello, this is King Rex coming at you with another Euchre video. This video is on defending against the loner in Euchre. I believe this is one of the most important things you can learn to do as a Euchre player because a loner represents 4 of the 10 points needed to win. So if your opponents get a loner through, you actually have to beat them on all the other hands within that game by a score of 10-5 to win. That would allow you to win 10-9. You pretty much have to dominate your opponent if they get a loner through in order to beat them. A loner can also cost you a game if you're sitting in a situation where you're winning like 9-6. Your opponent gets a loner successfully through, they beat you 10-9. Or a loner can bring a team back into a game that you're beating them quite badly. Say you're winning 8-2, they get a loner, that game's all of a sudden 8-6 and close. So that's why defending against the loner is one of the most important things for better Euchre players to win. If you're good and you want to become great, one of the things you can do to make yourself get a lot better is simply knowing the proper way to defend against the loner. First thing is, if you have one offsuit ace, don't lead it. I'm going to walk through here what can happen when you do that. Basically, the way I have this set up for all the hands, the top of the page there with the spades is the lone caller, and they're always going to be the dealer for this experiment. You don't have to be a dealer to call it alone, but most of this is there's a lot of how you lead against a loner. So I made the dealer the lone caller. To the right is the first seat, the first person that would lead. They'd lead on the first trick. To the left is their partner, and there's no cards on the bottom because when you play alone, the partner does not play. There's no point in putting any cards to represent that person. Their hand's basically out of play. So if the person leads out their lone offsuit ace, now if you have an offsuit ace and a trump ace, that trump ace I would still consider it a lone offsuit ace, even though you technically have 2 aces in your hands, because you're not going to lead that trump ace out anyway. So you lead the ace out. Your partner could have trumped here, which would probably be a decent situation. Say they throw their king out to draw a high trump, but this situation doesn't matter. So they either follow suit, they throw off with a trump, but then your opponent, unless you happen to pick the right ace, unless the ace you had was the suit that they had, they're going to just trump in on you and take that first trick, because even if this guy throws the king, they're going to throw the ace and take that trick anyway. Then the lone caller will throw usually their jack of spades out, which will draw out to trump. Throw the jack of clubs out, draws out another trump. You throw an offsuit card. In this situation, if I was the player that led the ace, which I wouldn't have done, since I'd have a queen of clubs and a queen of hearts with the jack of hearts, I'd actually just kind of hope that maybe they were 2 suited with 3 trump and 2 of the other suit, and I'd try to use the protected queen, which is as powerful as a protected king, but my hope is that maybe the jack queen somehow, maybe they have 2 hearts and one of them's below the jack. So I just throw the queen of clubs, because either way a queen is weak. They lead the ace, so you're going to throw your jack of hearts, although the queen of hearts and jack of hearts in that situation are about equal. And this is where the dilemma comes in. What does your partner throw out? He doesn't know what the lone caller has. He doesn't know they have hearts. They could have clubs. They could presumably have another trump card, maybe, if all the trump weren't played. They could have an ace somewhere. Well, they wouldn't have an ace. He knows they don't have an ace. But he doesn't know what card to keep. If he throws ace of clubs, they make the loan. If there's ace hearts, they don't. But if you would have not played your ace of diamonds and held it to the last card, they could have, if you threw a club, they'd have threw their ace of clubs on the first trick. If you threw a heart, they'd throw ace of hearts on the first trick, held the other one to the last, and you could have held your ace of diamonds to the last, and you'd have all the suits covered. That's why you don't throw a lone offsuit ace, because you could put your partner in the dilemma of which ace do they play on the 4th trick. And it seems like they more than half of the time play the wrong one. It seems like every time that situation comes down, you have 2 aces, you have to pick one of the 2. It seems like you almost always pick the wrong one. Now the situation is a lot different. In this situation, you have 2 offsuit aces. So you're going to play this completely differently because you have two offsuit aces. You're going to lead one offsuit ace first to avoid the dilemma you just put your partner in, because you want to play, in this case, the ace of diamonds, and you just hold the ace of hearts to the last trick. And you're hoping that either your partner has clubs covered or they don't have clubs. So then we go through the first trick. You throw the ace of diamonds. They take it with the trump. They throw out the jack of spades. Pull two trump cards. Pull out the jack of clubs. Pull a trump. You're just going to throw your jack of hearts in this situation because it doesn't matter. I throw the jack of hearts too, because if I have the ace of hearts covered, I'm just holding the queen of clubs because it makes more sense to hold that extra suit at that point. Fourth trick, they're going to lead the ace of spades. So what's going to happen basically is they're going to hold their king for the end, and you and your partner are going to hold their last card and have the king of hearts. And in this situation, whatever their offsuit was, if they had one, because you played one ace first, you had them covered. Now, there isn't a guarantee that you'll always have them covered, because it's not the guarantee that your opponent will have the other ace. There's not a guarantee that they don't have an ace in their hand, so it's not guaranteed to work. But if you would have not thrown one of your two aces, you'd have put yourself in that same dilemma of which ace do I throw on the fourth trick. Basically, you don't want to be wasting aces, and that's why the rule for playing with offsuit aces is pretty simple. If you have only one offsuit ace, don't lead it. If you have two, lead one of the two, and it doesn't really matter which one you lead, because you're going to hold the other one till the end. And then you just have to, basically, you're covering two suits that way. If you only have one offsuit ace, you're hoping your partner covers two suits. What do you lead when you don't have aces, though? This is a big situation that you might come into, because you're not guaranteed to ever even have an ace. So if you have what's called a protected king, which is a king with a lower, it's an offsuit king with a lower card of the same suit underneath it. In this case, I have a protected king with a queen. If you have king, queen, they're back to back, so the only card that can be either one of them is the ace of hearts that's in that suit. So if you throw the queen, and the idea here is that many times someone that's the dealer especially, they'll be able to go down to B2 suited. So you're hoping that, okay, they have three strong trump. Maybe they have two hearts, and hopefully I can take at least one trick by using the protected king. So what you're doing with the queen is you're drawing out the ace if they have it. In this case, they had the ace. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold that king to the end, because then that king is the top card in that suit, and you're just hoping that whatever they have left is in that suit. Something which would be anything lower than the king, because you already drew out two of the top ones. You see how this works. The first trick, you throw the queen, it takes their ace. They're of course going to leave their two jacks out, which is going to draw the trump out. You're going to throw away your queen of clubs, because the king of diamonds is a little bit better. Their king, and this is a really strong hand they had here, is going to draw out the king, but because you played the protected king correctly with the queen, when they have that jack of hearts left, your king takes it. Not guaranteed to work every time, but you only lead the queen out first when it's king, queen. If it's not with the queen, you do not want to lead that out first, and we're going to show you why right here. So you lead the jack out first. The only things I switched around in this hand from the previous one was I literally took the jack of hearts and the queen of hearts, and I switched them between our hand and the dealer's hand. Most people would not even consider that a significant hand. It wouldn't make any difference. And it wouldn't make a difference most of the time, but if you lead the jack, your partner's going to follow, and then they're not going to take with the ace, they're going to take with the queen. They're going to take with the lowest possible card they can take with. Whenever you play euchre, you should be smart. You should always take, if you're the last to act, with the lowest card possible. And since the dealer here is the lowest card possible, he's going to do that. So we're going to see how the five tricks work out. We already showed you the first one, so they're going to lead their jacks out, which is going to draw the trump. Once again, you get similar plays from everybody. These are all the same, basically, except on the last hand, because you didn't hold the out properly, that protected king didn't do nothing because it had to go up against the ace. So remember, protected king with queen, play the queen on the first trick. With protected king without queen, hold those as your last two tricks. You want to play the lower of the two on the fourth trick and a higher of the two on the fifth trick. Unless it is a situation where you can take the fourth trick by playing one of the higher, then you're always going to take a trick when you can. I'm going to show another situation to protect the king with the queen, because it can work where they don't have that suit as well. So you throw your queen, your partner follows, and they trump your queen. Well, now you have some information. The dealer doesn't have hearts, because you led the queen of hearts. They don't have hearts, and if they do have hearts, you got them reneging, which gives you 2 points anyway. So since you have this information, you can use that information. They're going to take the first trick with the 9. They're going to lead out both their jacks, and the second trick you're going to follow suit when you have to, but the first opportunity you have to throw off your king of hearts, your protected king. The reason why is because you know it's not any good. They don't have hearts. You know at this point, this is the third trick. They got their point. You're going to hold out to have better cards. On the fourth trick, you're going to throw your lower of your 2 cards, which is the queen and the king of diamonds. Queen of clubs, king of diamonds, you're going to throw the queen of clubs. Then to the fifth trick, it's going to reduce down. That because you got that information with the queen, you held the king of diamonds instead of the king of hearts, and that could save you a point. But remember, only king, queen together do you do that. Don't try to get fancy with it with a king jack or a king 10, because it could blow up in your face. Also, let's say you don't have aces and you don't have a protected king. What do you lead then? If you look here, there's really nothing that's great for the person in the first seat to lead. He's got 3 queens, a couple other lower offsuit cards. Even if you had a trump, you wouldn't lead it. I just say go ahead, lead next. The reason why I say this is it does seem that a lot of the time when someone has a really good loner, they have only one color in their hand, so they'll have a bunch of spades and a club. So if you lead the queen of clubs, if your partner has the ace and they have a club, that saves a point right there. They don't necessarily have to work that way. Let's say your partner doesn't have a club, you lead the queen of clubs, your partner doesn't have any clubs, so he's going to trump in. That takes their club, even though they have the ace, which is giving them an even better hand than before. So I say just lead next. Now, next thing you need to know is if you don't have the suit that's led, if you're a partner, trump when you don't have that suit. And you also want to trump as high as you can. Look at this situation here. The partner had 2 trump. He has the ace and the 9 of diamonds. Rather than trying to tuck that 9 on there, hit that as hard as you can. And the reason why, you're going to force out a higher suit. If you'd have trumped with the 9, they're going to take with the queen. You trump with the ace. It forces a bower out of their hand. You probably figure they have both bowers, but then you don't know what they have after that. Forcing a bower out of their hand could lead to your partner being able to take a trick then. Maybe they have a couple trump in their hand too. You never know. Which in this situation, I changed the cards a little bit. So he took the first trick with 1 bower. He leads out the second bower. He took with the left. He leads out the right. So that reduces it down to this situation. And now the caller's in a dilemma. He hasn't seen the king of spades. He's got 2 offsuit kings with 3 tricks left. If he starts leading kings, he's probably at this point not going to get his loner through because you trumped high. If you'd have trumped low, it'd have been queen, led both jacks, exhausted all the trump. He's got his point guaranteed. He's just hoping to get his kings through. Now he's got to worry about getting euchre. If he throws that queen and he gets trumped, that could be the end of everything right there. Because then he gets euchre. So he can't even throw the queen in this situation. A lot of people will do that and think, well, I got to try to get that. That's not a smart situation. You'll have to hold the queen and just play for your point if this situation comes up. Because that trumping can lead to a euchre because we're in the same situation. If he throws the queen, he pretty much is in a bad situation no matter what. If you look at the hand here, it doesn't matter what he leads, he's euchred. If he leads the queen, you're going to take with the king. He has no trump left then. The ace of hearts will take a trick, and then the 9 would take with the ace of clubs. If he leads either king, he's going to get taken. I guess he could lead. The only way I guess he could get away with it, if he leads the king of clubs, you'd have to follow, and then ace would take it, but then that person would have to lead a heart. Well, you have to put his king of hearts on, and you take it. and then the king of spades is going to take at the end. So I guess he's euchred at this point because the person trumped high. If the person would have tried to go cheap, he wouldn't have done that. Also, trump and high can just save you the 3 points because instead of giving up 4 points, you're giving up 1 point because you're forcing that jack out. In this situation, I gave them a much better hand. They have the ace and king offsuit. You're going to see that they're going to have to lead their other jack. They're going to lead that ace of clubs, which you're going to trump off on because you're going to take it as soon as you can take it. You know that's the only thing they can take it other than the queen, which you don't think your partner has. Then, then in that situation, he will make his point because he has the one last trump card left. But if he would lead the queen in this situation, he would get euchre. So he does have to lead the ace in that situation. But it does, trump and high can get a euchre on a loner, or it can save a point on a loner. So you don't want to hold back when you're trying to defend against the loner. The last thing we're going to go over was what's called blocking. Blocking is basically ordering up your opponent to avoid a loner. A few rules. Only do this if you're in the first position, meaning you're the first person to act. Don't do it in the third position. The idea there is if your partner doesn't have a natural stopper, he should be ordering up. If the situation comes up where it's 9-6 or 9-7, you do not want to do it any other time because then you're just giving away points for nothing. This is just so you don't lose a game that's practically won when it's 9-6 or 9-7. You give them 2 points, make it 9-8 or 9-9, then you should be the person dealing next. And you're hoping to score a point on your deal. And I put to the side what's a stopper. If a spade's on, let's say the ace of spades is the card on the top of the kitty. If you're the first seat and you have the jack of spades, you don't have to order up because you have the stopper. So if they pick that up, you're not getting 4. Conversely, if you have a protected left bower, jack of clubs, you also have a stopper because you're not going to play those out unless you have to. You're going to basically allow him to draw out your 9. Then you have the jack, which is the highest card left. So blocking, it's a little more advanced. Generally only when you're playing with a lot of good players would I worry about this. If your opponent's smart enough to realize what you're doing, they won't get mad. Another way you can block is if the person deals out the cards and they turn something big up on the kitty, and you can just tell by the way they're acting because they have a terrible poker face that they've dealt themselves a loner, or if they will pick it up before you have a chance to order them up and call it a loan, you're allowed to say, no, I'm ordering you up, and you can save 2 points that way, or 3 points that way. Well, 2 points because you're giving them 2. So that's how blocking works. Like I said, if you play against a loner properly, you won't have too many loners getting through on you. And some of these principles can work otherwise, but really this is big against loners. All right, I want to thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and have a great day.